Hey there guys, welcome to another Run 8 Train Simulator video. Today we're going to take a look at the Norfolk Southern South Fork Secondary, which recently released for Run 8 for $20 US. Now this is not a full route, it's basically an offshoot, or a secondary obviously, from the Pittsburgh line, which is just off there in the distance where you can see that stacked train sitting. So this runs down into a very rich coal valley, or a couple of coal valleys that have been around since the 1800s, and this is basically what is left as of today, or modernity. It's going to be a 30-mile branch off of the Pittsburgh line that's going to go to Windber, which is one portion of the branch because there's sort of a Y, and it's going to go off to Windber to well, they're both south. So there's Windber, and then there's another branch that goes off down to Central City, PA, which is much further, and goes down to, I think it's a currently closed coal mine back in there, or a cleaner, if you will. They produce cleaner coal, or clean coal. Now, it is 100% coal op, so you're really not going to see anything else back here, save for, maintenance waves, something like that going on. This is the yard, the staging yard, where trains will come off of the Pittsburgh line empty. They'll show up, drop off their cuts, and then there are crews generally staged here, as far as I can understand, at South Fork, that'll take the empty guns down to whichever coal mine they're going to, and then get them filled. Now, it's not a walk in the park, so to speak, as is not a lot of this line, horsepower per ton, barring that, obviously, but there are grades of about 2.4% all up and down the secondary here. You've got a couple of mines, such as the Rosebud mine, the Huskin Run mine, and the Shady Creek mine, and it's dark territory. So as you can see, I'll pop up in the F3 up here, and this is it. It's still one dispatch page, or track map, if you will, and you can see up here is the South Fork secondary, or South Fork yard as it's named. Kind of just dark territory, not dispatch controlled. Now it's assigned blocks, essentially. I want to say there's like 6 or 7 blocks, and you can tune in to the radio channel and the tone as to which block you're in, because that's how they move trains, and try to keep it as safe as possible down here. Now, back in the day, there were about up to 4 trains, 2 each way, for the most part. I don't know about nowadays, as I think a lot of this is generally set in Run 8. Probably early 2000s, where coal was a lot less regulated than it is today, and generally you saw SD80 Max up and down the secondary, and of course the Pittsburgh line, which sadly we do not have. So in place of that, you can use the SD70 ACE, or if you want to get crazy, Dash 2s, whatever you got. Alright, so as this is a somewhat simple operation, I'll try to keep it short and sweet as possible. First, we'll go over the route, we'll take a look at how everything looks, and then after that, we will go over the operations and what you'll need to do to basically get going to start running some king coal back up to the Pittsburgh line. So this is the South Fork Y. That way goes on down to Johnstown, and then up that way back up towards Altoona. So this is the western slope, obviously. And we'll head over here. This is the small town of South Fork, just a little borough established in about the mid-1800s, when coal mining very much prospered in this area. It sadly declined over a few decades and dropped out fairly quick. Now, that's not to say that there's not still coal mining going on, but it's a lot less and a lot more environmentally controlled than it was back in the day, obviously. This is, of course, the South Fork yard, so trains will build their units, their coal trains. They'll come and set cutouts of loads, I think predominantly on the left tracks, as you see here, and then the empties on the right or in the middle. A lot of times they'll have to split up cuts of cars from 25, 50, 60, whatever it be, whatever that particular mine can handle, and then they will generally put them back together either up here or in a couple of areas up and down the map where there's some sidings, because there are quite a few. So I think there's a base that's generally here. I think this area is still ran for the most part today, just obviously not as busy. I believe there's generally crews stationed here that start work mid-morning, not early morning, wee hours, depending. I want to say between like 7 and 9 a.m. and then they start their work. Generally, empty coal trains will come from the east from several power plants. I think it notates 3 in the PDF, which, by the way, there's a very nice PDF for this that lays out everything you need to know. So they'll come from there, and you can tag them how you want to go back. And then once they're full, they'll get some, road power, whatnot, and then they'll head back out east to whatever power plants they go to. So this, of course, is the main yard. It's the largest part of the area. And there's a couple of tracks. As you can see, I've got a loaded coal train ready to go sitting here. And this track on the right runs all the way past it, so it's sort of like a siding. Now, I've looked around the South Fork Secondary a little bit already, and it does look pretty nice. I'm a fan of coal trains, big, heavy coal trains. You don't really see stuff like you used to in the 90s and early 2000s. But I digress. We got it in Run 8 now. But that being said, this general area where you kind of start out is extremely barren. I would like to see a lot more vegetation, bush, grasses, things like that, because it's just this really bare kind of 2D grass until you get down to like the dam memorial up the road there. So I don't know if it was like a last minute thing trying to push it out, maybe forgot to decorate this area some, because it does not look very good at all, which is seeing the 2D trees and the flat ground texture through here. Luckily, the entire secondary does not look like this. But this through here could definitely use some sprucing up. I would say pun intended, but I don't think spruce trees, maybe spruce trees are up here in the Alleghenies. I don't know. So we'll go ahead and scooch on down here. Single tracks back into one. You can see how just bare the bedside scenery is. We've got the South Fork, Little Conemaugh River off to our right here, and then behind us, of course, was the Little Conemaugh River. This is the Dam Memorial down here, which is a pretty neat and historically important place, and it was put in. So this is a government owned and ran park, which in real life has got a couple of nice old buildings up there. It looks like a nice area. I love historic stuff like that. And this is where the dam used to be. So you can see these bits, the berms or whatever, on both sides of where the dam used to be. And these are, in fact, here. So that's nice that they were put there as well. So the reasoning behind this dam is it was originally built in the mid-1800s for a canal system reservoir. So here back would have been, a lot higher. We're talking, this thing was like 75 feet high, almost 1,000 feet wide. The dam anyway, and the reservoir would have been massive. So now a lot of these towns down the line would be completely underwater were that still to be around. But it was poorly taken care of. The state ran it for a while, then the railroad got a hold of it, and then private entities had constant leaks. A couple of these companies that own the thing, would take steel and pipe out of it to sell, just let the thing go into disrepair. And it was not a laughing matter, because the straw that broke the camel's back eventually was a ton of rains, which happened in 1889, and eventually made it give way. All the reservoir's water ran up to the Little Conemaugh, ran down into Johnstown, and over 2,000 people died, caused $17 million worth of damage. It was fairly catastrophic. So that's what this was. There used to be a dam here. This is now a national protected and historic site. And it looks pretty cool. And what I was talking about earlier with the vegetation, as you can see through here, it just looks a lot better. So you've got little bushes sporadically and things like that just kind of break up that, that openness that you see further up the line. It's weird. It's like it just stops up there for whatever reason. So it looks a lot better through here, and it's nice having the river through here as well. So right through here, we've gone down the branch, another mile or two headed south, and this is another sort of staging yard, so they can put cuts together here. There's 3 or 4 tracks here with a couple of crossovers, so they can do the work that they need to do here. So you don't have to go all the way up to the South Fork Y. You can do some stuff here as well. at the south end of that staging area, looking back north now towards the Pittsburgh line. This is a neat little area as well. So there is a miners museum here. It was an old church. I'm probably going to get it wrong. It's like St. Andrews or St. Michael or something like that. So that's why that is there. And then, of course, there's a public park here as well. So here you have a baseball, what I'm assuming is supposed to be a diamond. It started okay. this back area, like, I'm sure doing the fencing and that kind of bowed, D shape must not have been very easy, but yeah, I think the kids could use another set of lights as well, because just one back here and one up there. But anyway, this isn't scenery simulator. It's all about operation of trains and whatnot. So that's what that is there. It's just still part of that staging area, and there's a lot of good stuff all around. So it's it's spruced up a tiny bit as far as vegetation up and down through here. You've got some barrels, some clutter, some old wooden ties, all kinds of junk just sitting around, and there are some very nice scenic views through here as well. Still looking south, here is one of very, very many level crossings on this secondary, and I know I wouldn't get tired of that view. One of the big companies you'll come across marching southbound is this place here. I think this is MMI Doors. They're a very large, very well-to-do door sales and wholesaler. It is not rail served, obviously. I think it's mainly truck trailer, but it's here nonetheless, and the asset looks pretty nice. Now, I'm not going to go down the entirety of the line, just kind of stop and take in the air, if you will, of some of the views through here. Like I said, it's not, you're not going to have it in cruise control for the most part. You're going to have retainers set with loads, and there's, fairly heavy grades, 2.5% almost, and this is just the start of it, heading south. Still marching south after about 3 miles or so. We're here for no other particular reason other than I think it's a very scenic area. Catching a train coming around this curve here with the mountains in the backdrop. It's just a nice composed area if you want to take some pictures or just watch some trains go by. Now this right here, another mile or two further south, is the town of Windber and Scalp Level. So where the tracks split here is Scalp Level. So to the left goes on to Windber and the Rosebud coal mine, which I think is the most active mine, most producing on the secondary. And then to the right goes further down to the Huskin Run and the, I can't remember the other one at the moment. But I always thought the Scalp bit was kind of a weird name. I guess the story goes that the guy that used to own this land is something about, he told somebody he wanted his hedges or bushes scalped level or something like that. Seems very basic, but I guess that's how towns and areas were named back then. They just, somebody would say a random thing and be like, that's what we'll name the town. You can see here just south of Scalp Level, Windber is off to the left, and then this is the track that goes on towards Central City and the other two mines. That is the longer of the two, and it is quite twisty and quite scenic as well, but we're going to head on down through Windber first and foremost. So you're going to have a lot of level crossings going through this area in particular. Gosh, there's probably 20 maybe. I mean, they're just back to back to back to back. This is old railroad territory. This is the town of Windber, established in the late 1800s for the nearby coal mines, obviously, by the Berwyn Corporation coal barons at the time. The company, of course, imported a lot of workers and kind of got the town flowing and built. They came from Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and there were already ones settled here from Germany and Ireland and whatnot. So it kind of prospered for a while, and there were numerous mines around here. While we're here, I'd like to point out a couple of things. I feel like we got a couple of new assets. I know some people could care less. They're all about train operation, but I like scenery just as much as I like, running the train, if you will. Some of these houses look new. they look a little bit more high res, a little bit sharper. Seems like they've got a little AO to them, and I just don't remember seeing some of these. I remember seeing some of your single level houses. We'll see if we can find one of the older houses. But these all definitely look new. Like that building's old. That's been used before. But some of these homes look pretty new, and they look fairly good. Can also see a little glare on the road as well. I don't know if that's new. So when you look at the update, or when you update Run 8, you'll see each and everything that's installed or changed. And I feel like I saw one thing that had something to do with the highway or the road getting some new files. So that could have something to do with that. You can kind of see that gas and oil slick going down the center of the lane. That looks really good. Let's see if we can find one of these older houses. Yeah, these all look new to me. Where's an older one? We'll find one. We'll find one. Those are all new as well, but they do look good. It definitely looks like there's a couple of new assets that came along with this update. Crossing after crossing all through this neighborhood of Falmer's Paradise, obviously. And then we get into town here. You can definitely see some high rail assets being used, like these lampposts here, for sure. So this right here is an interesting little spot in the town of Windber. There's a park here, but sadly what's missing in Run 8 is the Pennsylvania Railroad train station. Now, I'm no PRR nut by any stretch, none at all, actually, but I do think that a station should have been represented here in some form or fashion. It was a station put here, I think it's built in like 1916, and it's currently the municipal building for the city, and they hold events and whatnot here. But, it's just one of those pieces of history that I think should be in a Run 8 route, if you will. Now, I know the issue is the asset, so, I don't think the time is going to be taken to make a new asset, sadly, which is fine, but you could always use some other kind of building and hodgepodge it, if you will. Obviously not the Tehachapi Depot, because that would be massive and take like 2 city blocks in this town, but still something I feel like should be there. It kind of stinks that the old Pennsylvania Railroad station isn't there. But I digress. We keep on moving forward. This actually used to be a Y here, so the tracks went straight. You can still see on Google Maps where the roadbed was. There's no track here on the other side of the Y, but there's still some old track that leads out here. And neat little bit about this area is so the Y would come down and then go back that way. And just on the side of this ridge here is this old... like an old electric car private collection type of deal. It's kind of funky. It stinks that you can't really see something here in the game, not like you'd be able to in real life from the line anyway, but I'm trying to think. It's just like you can see it from Google Maps. That's probably the best way to look at it. But it's an old streetcar kind of graveyard, if you will. It's private. It's up in the woods. You can't access it unless you're trespassing or breaking the law. But that would have been neat to see something up in there. It's a cool collection. I'm not sure why the guy got them all and then just kind of hoarded them and then didn't do anything with them. I mean, even in the state they're in, it'd be nice, charge people $5 a pop and come in and see them. So this is a pretty good curve here. This curves back up. Not too much farther is the Rosebud Coal Mine. I do like the stuff going on with the road here, the construction. I love seeing scenes like that. That's always nice. Those cones are absolutely massive. I got a couple of EMS here ready to, if any foamers get stupid on the railroad, they can take them right to the hospital. But this is a nice area through here in this curve. You can see some good stuff through here. A lot of these houses look new. I'm pretty sure a lot of these are new. Please let me know as always in the comments, or if you just spot anything I don't, which is very, very common. Please do. So you're around the bend from the town, not too far up the railroad here, and then you've got multiple tracks. So this is just another staging area where trains can get taken apart or put together. As you can see, I got a loaded cut here ready to go out, and then this pair of units is pushing this back in, getting ready to load it. This, of course, is the Rosebud Mine. Big company. I think they're all over Pennsylvania and Ohio, but they sell low, mid, and high grade coal just about everywhere, import and export too, I believe. But it's a very big coal mine. It's fairly new. I think it's got a good track record as far as you know, the earth. I'm trying to think of the technical word. Yeah, the earth. So yeah, it's a coal mine. It's big. Something else that I think that was new was added is some of these tipples or these loaders. Some of this stuff looks new as well. I think these are some more items possibly from the jointed rail asset library, because some of these little bits like this do look a lot nicer and a lot cleaner, a lot more high res, a little bit sharper textures, and it's nice seeing updated stuff. But yeah, the end of the line is right down here. That's it, just enough room. So they'll usually do like 50 car cuts at a time if I'm not mistaken, but we'll go over that in the operational bit. But that's the end of the line, then the trains would go back up to the Y. So now we are back at scalp level. So a moment ago we took the line off to the left. Now we're going to take the one to the right down to Central City in that area. And it's fairly scenic. You follow basically a river canyon through here when you get a bit farther down. Pretty curvy. I'm sure the speed is fairly low. Probably going to be 15, 20 tops. You got a couple of nice bridges through here. I believe this is Little Paint Creek coming through here. And then later on it'll be Shade Creek, which is fairly large. I'd call it a river. I always find it funny when you see a large flowing body of water called a creek instead of a river. But it's got a couple of bridges. It looks like it was planned out a little better, or it's more modern part of the line, hence the bridges going over the road instead of through the towns. Got a lot more neighborhoods and a couple of houses back in here. And then back here off to the right, which you will not serve. This is the, gosh, what is it called? It's like, I think it's called the Eureka 37, but it was one of the numerous coal mines from the Berwind Company. So the town we were just back in has Windbur, right? The coal barons were called Berwinds. Yes, big brain time. You just swap a couple of parts around, and then you've got the name essentially backwards, which they named the town after. This was one of their mines. This was, I think, started operations in the late 1800s, right about the turn of the century, and then ran up until I want to say the mid 1960s. It's a very big place. This was one of their most profitable mines in the area, and a lot of historic bits and pieces still lay around at this site. I'm not sure if it's public or private, but I've seen plenty of pictures online. It's a cool looking place with a lot of old historical buildings. And then you get back on this branch and you are in it. It is essentially kind of the middle of nowhere, and follows this very picturesque river valley. I think this is Shade Creek. It actually might be a Little Paint Creek that's down at the bottom of that gulch there, but this runs for miles and miles. It's fairly scenic. You still got a big heavy coal train you're going to have to handle, so you can't really kick back for the most part, but I'm not going to go over each bit or mile for mile of the scenery through here, because while it is nice, There's just not much to it operational wise. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next mine. I lied, we're not at the mine yet. This is a very nice spot as well, a bridge over the Shade Creek. Just a very nice scenic spot, but the next mine's right up the road here. Right, so many miles up the line. If you're up in here and you hear banjos, start running. That's all I'll say. It is quite middle of nowhere. This is the Shade Creek mine. I believe that's what it's called. It's also called Huskin Run, if I'm not mistaken. So the run is, you know, a small body of water that usually branches off. It's not large enough to call a river or a creek or a stream. You get the point. Anyway, this is a front loader mine, which is pretty neat. I don't think this one gets served as much as the Rosebud on the other branch that we took a peek at, but obviously you'd see these big old front loaders just scooping it up and dumping it car by car. So it's car by car service. It would take quite a while to load one of these trains, as you know, it obviously doesn't keep moving. Or at least I don't think it does. So the issue here is there's no passing track. That is it. It's one line. And then the other major coal mine is right up that way. That's the end of the line further up that way around the bend. So they would really have to plan these trains out, because, you know, if something was coming from the other mine up there and needed to get by, there was just absolutely no chance of that happening. So I don't think loading here is very often, though stuff can be loaded here. I think the trains are a little bit smaller from this mine. They probably fill maybe 60 to 80 cars per, but it's a neat little mine nonetheless. And this here is pretty much the end of the line. Now this is another 5 miles or so, so I'm kind of skipping around quite a bit, so we're missing quite a chunk of scenery that you're not seeing. But this is the Shade Creek plant. I think it was owned by a company called Corsa Shade, and it was also a prep plant, so they would make a finer, revised, higher quality coal, if you will. I believe this is currently idle. If you look up the company's status on the internet, it says currently idle, but it produced quite a bit. I want to say it was around almost 2 million prep tons of coal this place produced annually, so it's quite a bit. Quite a large mine as well. Sadly, it is idle, but you know, when this takes place in Run 8, it does, you know, that matters not. You could play it as the 90s or early 2000s, because you've got a lot of room to work around back here. Another deal where you're gonna have to do some cuts, maybe some 50 car cuts and maybe some extra coal gone sitting back here for later. But this is a pretty large facility, and it's got some more, I think, new stuff like this loader here. So as you can see, this is a totally different loader than the one over at Rosebud, which is neat. And again, some of this stuff looks a lot newer, so it's nice seeing some newer assets. And then right behind us, we'll turn around and look that way. This is the end of the line where you can run around if need be. And that is it. You are in the middle of nowhere. So we kind of looked around at the map. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the operations. So just to preface, as far as operations, there's a very nice PDF or manual in the user guide section of your Run 8 file. So if you purchase the Norfolk Southern South Fork Secondary, you will get this guide, and it tells you everything you need to know. It's fairly simple. So empties again come from the east, generally in Run 8 as 651, 571, and 577 at CPW. So the train will enter the single track with an AI special instruction to stop and relinquish west of the Y back behind us there. So local crews will take the train at South Fork and continue down to whatever mine. And then so from the originating plant, whether it be one of the 3 plants we looked at, they then turn into a C designation. We've got C47 through C50, and then there's also a C90 that's primarily for the South Fork use. Here is the aforementioned South Fork Secondary guide within Run 8. That's one of the things I always appreciate in Run 8, is a very detailed manual or operations guide, because this isn't exactly a train or rail sim to hold your hand, so it takes some time figuring some stuff out. So it'll tell you everything you need to know, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the form that you can use, whether you're playing, you know, by yourself or on a server with others. Now, this is also included. This is what they would call Permit Form D. I would imagine Norfolk Southern still uses something like this, since it is sort of a dark area. It's just got everything you need to put in here to get a train moved, how far you can move it, so on and so forth. And then we'll go over the blocks so you'll know what blocks are which. Alright, so we are in our ACE, and say we need to set up our block permission to be able to move our train between areas on the secondary. So it's got all the stuff listed out in the PDF, as I mentioned numerous times now, but there are channels per milepost. So you've got milepost 2 through Central City and Rosebud. Now, milepost 2 through 14 are the same, and then milepost 20 through 26 and Central City, I believe, are the same, and then Rosebud has got its own. So say we're going to take this train to Rosebud. So we'll go ahead and put in, I believe it's channel 12. And then, okay, so it's set to 12. So then DTMF, and then Rosebud is 07. So DTMF 07 pound. And there it is. So wow, that took a minute. I didn't think I did it right for a moment. Awkward silence. So it says Pittsburgh East Portage, auto answering Rosebud Mines. So there you go. You would, you know, relinquish a request, mainline authority, request the next sighting, signal, so on and so forth. So you can still use auto. You don't have to kind of do everything on your own, even though there's no map per se to look at or dispatch screen. So that is neat as well. So we'll go ahead and back out here. So the lines, the two lines that go to the mines are as follows. So the Rosebud, I think it's Rosebud number 78. The mine is number 78. Those are 100-car trains cut into two. The Shade Creek is 84 cars. I had it backwards. So that's the one with the front loader, and then the, or wait, no, I lied. No, the one at the very end, Shade Creek mine, that's the big one. That's 84. And then the Huskin Run mine, that's the one with the front loader. That's 50-car cuts. And then, you know, each cut would come back here, and then they'd put the train together. But that should cover just about everything with the South Fork Secondary. Now, yeah, it is a one-trick pony, but it does that trick very well. I think it's a good-looking line. We could definitely use some sprucing up of some trackside scenery along some of this area here. It's just way too barren. But other than that, a lot of this stuff looks really, really good. And, of course, we need some SD80s. So, you know, but what can you do there? But that's it, guys. I hope you found the video informative. The Norfolk Southern's South Fork Secondary for Run 8. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye.